Every single second of the day, roughly 3,000 packages are just dropped into the global postal system.
Oh, easily. Probably more during peak seasons.
Right. And the moment they leave your hand, I mean, they enter one of the most violent, high-speed automated environments on Earth.
It really is a staggering transition, if you think about it. You hand over this quiet little cardboard box across a very quiet, sterile counter.
Yeah, usually with quiet elevator music playing or something.
Exactly. And then within hours, it is being hurled down chutes, accelerated on these massive conveyor belts at like 30 miles an hour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and subjected to the kind of kinetic forces that would basically rattle your teeth.
It's wild. And, we generally try not to think about that part. We just treat going to the post office as this really mundane errand.
Right. It's just something you have to cross off your to-do list.
Yeah, you walk in, you want to get rid of a box, you pay whatever the clerk tells you to pay, and you just sort of hope for the best.
We treat it entirely as a black box. You input money in a parcel on one side, and you just expect a delivery to magically happen on the other side.
This is a total leap of faith.
It is. But that passive approach is exactly why so many people find the whole shipping process so incredibly stressful.
Because you're totally out of control.
Exactly. You are relinquishing control of your personal property to this massive, faceless machine.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. If you've ever felt that underlying anxiety when staring across the postal counter, or if you just really want to understand the levers of power behind everyday logistics, you are definitely in the right place.
Absolutely.
Today, our mission is to extract the vital tools you need to master the art of the post office. We are looking specifically at how to send packages with absolute calculated confidence.
And we have a great foundation for this.
Yeah. Our foundational text for this exploration is a really targeted set of notes from an English learning guide, and it's titled Postal Precision, Shipping Packages with Confidence.
And what's really remarkable about this source material is that it isn't just a basic vocabulary list.
Right. It's way more than that.
It is. It's really a manual for asserting agency. By mastering just a few key concepts, the specific vocabulary around speed, tracking, insurance, and packaging, you are no longer just a passive participant.
You're actually in the driver's seat.
Exactly. You're actively configuring the parameters of a massive industrial system.
I mean, we all know the absolute basics of mailing a letter, right? Put a stamp on it, put it in the blue box.
Sure.
But what we really want to do today is, look under the hood. When you use these specific terms at the counter, what physical mechanisms are you actually triggering?
How are you shifting the risk?
Exactly. Because this source suggests that if you understand the underlying logic, you totally transform a stressful errand into a completely controlled transaction.
You move from hoping the system works to deliberately directing how the system works for you.
So let's get right into the physical reality of this. The very first pillar the text highlights is, quote, explaining shipping speeds.
Yes. The speed.
Right. When you walk up to that counter, I mean, before you talk about anything else, you have to decide the velocity of your shipment.
Which sounds simple, but it's really the most fundamental choice.
But we need to look at what choosing a, quote, speed actually means in the real world. Because it's not just a matter of the delivery truck driving faster,
Right. The postal system doesn't just step on the gas pedal because you paid an extra $10.
Because that would be pretty funny, though. Hey, step on it. This guy paid for priority.
Right, exactly. But no, choosing a shipping speed is essentially choosing your package's entire physical routing architecture.
Routing architecture. Okay. Unpack that for us.
Well, it dictates the entire logistical reality of the package's journey. It's really an alignment of your personal urgency with the physical capabilities of what they call a hub-and-spoke sorting model.
Okay, let's break that down, because I think a lot of people just assume their package gets on a truck at the local post office and drives straight to the destination city.
Which is almost never what happens.
Right. So choosing a shipping speed is, it's really like buying a ticket for a theme park ride.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Yeah. So standard shipping puts your box in the general admission line, right? It moves at the pace of the massive, slow-moving crowd.
It does. It might sit in a sorting facility for 2 days just waiting for its turn on the conveyor belt.
Exactly. But expedited shipping, on the other hand, is the VIP Fast Pass.
That is a highly accurate way to visualize it. When you purchase an expedited speed, you are physically routing your box into a separate, dedicated lane.
A lane that deliberately bypasses all those standard bottlenecks.
Precisely. The clerk actually prints a different barcode. And that barcode isn't just a receipt. I mean, it's an instruction manual for the automated lasers inside the sorting hubs.
Okay, wait. So when that box hits the very first regional facility, the laser reads the barcode, and instead of letting it go down the normal chute to the slow-moving cross-country ground truck, an automated diverter just physically kicks it onto a different belt.
That's exactly what happens. It literally diverts it to the airport pallet. You are paying for the privilege of air freight over ground transport.
Wow.
You are paying to skip the intermediary regional sorting facilities.
So, standard ground shipping might require your package to be loaded and unloaded at, what, 5 different regional hubs across the country?
Easily. Yeah, handled by humans and machines at every single stop.
And every stop is a chance for delay.
Exactly. But expedited speed means it goes to a major hub, gets on a cargo plane, lands at another major hub, and goes directly out for delivery.
Which means you aren't just buying time, are you?
No, not at all.
You're actually buying a massive reduction in handling. You are buying priority placement in the physical world.
And if you don't understand that mechanism, you are essentially just guessing at the counter.
And guessing can cost you.
Oh, absolutely. Ignorance of that mechanism leads to significant inefficiencies for you, the consumer. On one end of the spectrum, you might just vastly overpay for unnecessary urgency.
Like dropping $40 to fly a sweater across the country.
Right. You might spend $40 for overnight air when standard ground shipping would have gotten it there in, say, 4 days anyway.
Which might perfectly align with your actual needs, right? If the person's birthday isn't for a week, why pay the $40?
Exactly. It's a complete waste of resources.
But then there's the flip side, which is arguably way worse.
Under-prioritizing it.
Yeah. You risk a critical failure by choosing a slower, cheaper option simply because it's cheaper.
Completely ignoring the fact that time was the absolute most valuable variable for that specific shipment.
Like sending important legal documents ground instead of overnight just to save $10.
And then missing a massive deadline.
Right.
The confidence that the source text talks about, it comes from making a deliberate, mathematically sound choice that matches your exact parameters.
But we also have to acknowledge the elephant in the room when it comes to speed, don't we?
I assume you mean the psychological aspect.
Yeah, exactly. Which is how our psychological expectations have been just completely rewired over the last decade or so.
Oh, without a doubt.
When I look at this source emphasizing the active choice of, shipping speeds, I immediately think about the modern Amazon effect.
Right.
The baseline for what we consider acceptable shipping has just shifted so radically.
It has fundamentally altered the average consumer's internal clock. If you look back even 20 years, the standard rhythm of the postal system was basically measured in weeks.
Please allow 4 to 6 weeks for delivery. I remember those commercials.
Exactly. That was a completely standard consumer expectation. The system operated on a schedule optimized purely for its own internal logistical efficiency.
And the sender just had to accept that timeline.
Right. But massive e-commerce networks completely shattered that paradigm.
They really did. They introduced 2-day shipping as a standard, then next day, and now, we've got same-day delivery in a lot of urban centers.
We basically live in a world of hyperspeed.
We do. Which makes the active choice of shipping speed at the postal counter today a much more deliberate and sometimes almost countercultural act.
Countercultural? How do you mean?
Because when you're standing at the counter today, the cultural default is just urgency, right?
Yeah.
You are deeply conditioned to want it there tomorrow. But true postal precision, like our source is teaching us, requires you to step back from that conditioned anxiety.
You have to perform an objective risk-benefit analysis.
Right. You have to consciously decide, does this actually need to be there tomorrow, or am I just addicted to the immediacy of it all?
That's a profound way to look at it.
Yeah.
You are consciously deciding to either match that modern standard of hyperspeed, or you are making the empowered choice to say, actually, the standard timeline is perfectly adequate, and I'll just keep the extra $30.
Yeah, I'll keep my money, thanks.
Exactly. And having the precise vocabulary to articulate that is what gives you the agency. The source notes treat explaining shipping speeds as a truly foundational skill.
Because if you can't communicate it, it doesn't happen.
Right. When you can clearly instruct the clerk, using the correct terminology, about exactly how fast you want that package to move, you dictate the terms. You aren't just at the mercy of a clerk making assumptions about your urgency.
Okay, so once you've secured that physical speed, you've bought your fast pass, you've gotten it routed onto the right plane or the right truck, you are immediately faced with a secondary, largely psychological problem.
The anxiety of the blind spot.
Yes. The moment of relinquishment, Once it leaves your hands, how do you prove it's actually moving?
And what happens if the automated machinery, destroys it?
Exactly. And that brings us to the data layer and the financial layer of the transaction.
Ultra crucial.
Our source identifies tracking and insurance options as the next critical tools for postal precision.
And it is so essential to decouple these two concepts because we very often conflate them.
Yeah, we bundle them together under this really vague umbrella of peace of mind.
We do. But tracking and insurance serve fundamentally different functions, both logistically and psychologically.
Okay, let's start with tracking. We all know tracking gives you a step-by-step location of your box.
Right. You get a number, you put it in an app, and it tells you, it's in Memphis.
Yeah, but what's fascinating to me is looking at why postal systems actually implemented that data layer in the first place.
Ah, right. It wasn't born out of a desire to comfort the consumer, I can tell you that.
Not at all. It was originally an internal diagnostic tool, right? Logistics companies just needed to track the flow of their own assets to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies.
They needed to know exactly where their own system was failing.
Right.
The barcode itself is an ingenious piece of technology. Whether it's a traditional 1D barcode or one of those complex 2D matrix squares, it acts as a unique license plate for that specific physical object.
So every time it passes a scanner, it registers.
Exactly. Every time that package passes an automated optical scanner,
Wow.
whether it's on a conveyor belt, at a loading dock, or even when a delivery driver just uses their handheld terminal, a data point is generated.
Time-stamped and everything.
Time-stamped and instantly uploaded to a central database.
And at some point, the logistics companies realized that this massive internal database could actually be outward-facing.
Which was a stroke of genius.
It really was. They realized that opening up that API to the consumer would act as a massive psychological pacifier.
It was a brilliant move to reduce internal friction. By giving the sender a digital window into the physical system, they drastically reduced the burden on their own customer service infrastructure.
Oh, yeah. Imagine the call centers before tracking.
Nightmare.
Yeah.
Instead of millions of people calling every day to ask, where is my package? The customer can just refresh a web page on their phone.
Over and over again. But it gives you the illusion of control. I mean, you can't actually make the package move any faster by refreshing the tracking page, obviously. But the visibility itself relieves the anxiety.
It changes the whole paradigm from, dropping a package into a black hole to maintaining a constant digital tether to your belongings.
It's pure psychological comfort. Now, contrast that with insurance, which is the other pillar mentioned in the text.
Yes.
Because insurance has absolutely nothing to do with visibility. It is a pure financial instrument.
It's the actuarial reality of logistics.
Exactly. Insurance is a safety net tied explicitly to the declared monetary value of the physical contents.
It doesn't tell you where the package is. It doesn't prevent the package from being crushed by a rogue forklift.
It simply promises to make you financially whole if the logistics network fails to deliver the item intact.
Right. When you buy postal insurance, you're basically entering into a micro-contract with a massive underwriter.
Like a mini insurance policy right there at the counter.
Precisely. The post office has calculated the exact statistical probability of a package being lost or destroyed in their massive system. They know the failure rate is, say, 0.5%.
So they charge you a premium based on that exact risk pool.
It is a risk transfer mechanism. You are paying a small fee to transfer the financial liability of the item's destruction from your own shoulders directly to the logistics company's shoulders.
So we have the diagnostic monitor, which is tracking, and we have the financial safety net, which is insurance.
Correct.
This leads me to a really interesting hypothetical based on how these are presented as discrete, separate options in our source material.
Okay, let's hear it.
Is there ever a logical scenario where you would purchase insurance but intentionally opt out of tracking?
That is an excellent thought experiment, actually, because it forces us to evaluate the utility of each tool completely in isolation.
Right. Because to me, it feels incredibly counterintuitive. Why would you want a financial guarantee but actively not want to know where the item actually is?
It seems backwards.
It really does. How do you even prove to the insurance department that the item was lost if you don't have tracking data showing where it vanished? It feels like, it feels like flying blind with a parachute.
That's exactly what it is. You are hitting on a critical logistical friction point there.
Yeah.
In the modern era, filing a successful insurance claim for a lost package almost entirely relies on the tracking data. The tracking data is your chain of custody.
Okay, that makes sense.
If the tracking shows the item was scanned at a regional facility in Chicago and then just never scanned again, Well, you have empirical proof of system failure. The logistics company cannot deny that they lost it.
Because their own computers say it was there?
Right. But if you just drop it in a mailbox with a stamp and an insurance sticker, but no tracking barcode,
Then what?
then you're in a very, very difficult position. You have to prove that the item didn't just get delivered and, stolen off a porch.
Oh, like porch pirates.
Exactly. Or you have to prove that you didn't just forget to mail it in the first place. The burden of proof is just much higher on the sender. So logistically, insurance without tracking is almost a paradox today.
They really are conceptually inseparable for true security. I mean, if you care enough about the financial value of the item to insure it, you inherently care enough to want visibility on its physical journey.
Exactly. However, the reverse scenario is much more common and arguably a lot more interesting to analyze.
Purchasing tracking, but actively declining insurance.
Yes.
Which brings us perfectly to the core scenario outlined in our source text. The text provides a highly specific, practical example to ground all these abstract concepts we've been talking about.
It presents a sender named Bruce.
Yes, Bruce. And Bruce's scenario is the crux of this entire deep dive. It's really where the rubber meets the road.
It is.
Let's read the exact scenario from the notes. It says, quote, Bruce is sending a fragile gift home and needs to ask for bubble wrap and tracking.
There is an immense amount of strategic and psychological information encoded in that single sentence. Let's really deconstruct the variables there. First, he is sending a gift and he is sending it home.
And that phrasing immediately changes the temperature of the entire transaction, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. This isn't a business shipping a replacement gear to a corporate client. It's not a commodity. It has serious emotional weight.
Right. The destination of home implies this deeply personal connection. It implies family, loved ones, or at least a highly familiar origin point.
And that elevates the stakes of the transaction immensely. The requirement for confidence that the source title mentions is no longer just about cold business efficiency. It's about emotional security.
Because Bruce needs this package to arrive, because it represents a physical manifestation of his relationship with the recipient.
Exactly. It's a token of affection, not just inventory.
And then we get the critical physical descriptor in the notes. The item is fragile.
Yes, fragile.
Everything we've talked about so far, speeds, barcodes, APIs, actuarial risk pools, all of that is abstract data and logistics. The word fragile brings us violently back to the physical laws of the universe.
It introduces the reality of kinetic energy management.
Kinetic energy management.
Yes. As we discussed earlier, the automated postal environment is incredibly chaotic. Conveyor belts literally drop items into huge metal bins from several feet in the air. Packages shift during turbulent cargo flights. Delivery trucks hit massive potholes.
A fragile item inside that system is constantly under threat of destruction.
Which is exactly why the source specifically highlights Bruce's need to ask for bubble wrap. Now, we could just say he needs packaging, but bubble wrap is a very specific, highly engineered solution.
It's not just crumpled newspaper.
Far from it. Bubble wrap is brilliant in its simplicity. It utilizes trapped atmospheric air to manage deceleration.
Deceleration, right. Because it's not the fall that breaks the item, it's the sudden stop.
Exactly. When a box containing a fragile item is dropped, the kinetic energy of the impact has to go somewhere. Without protection, that energy transfers directly into the rigid structure of the item.
Causing a massive fracture, it shatters.
Right. But bubble wrap actually extends the duration of the impact. The air bubbles compress, slowing down the item over a fraction of a second, which dramatically reduces the peak G-force experienced by the fragile object.
So it dissipates the kinetic energy before it can cause structural failure.
It acts as a physical shock absorber. It is the physical manifestation of Bruce's care for the gift.
And the source specifically notes that he must explicitly ask for it. This reinforces the core thesis here. You must have this specific English vocabulary to command the system.
Because if Bruce just walks up to the counter and says, hey, make it safe, the clerk might just slap a fragile sticker on the outside of a thin cardboard box and call it a day.
And a sticker does not absorb kinetic energy.
Not at all. A sticker is just a request. Bubble wrap is physics.
Exactly. All the shipping speed in the world and all the digital tracking updates won't save a glass vase from shattering if it doesn't have physical deceleration management.
The vocabulary word bubble wrap is the exact tool that unlocks the physical protection. He is using language to force the system to adapt to his specific physical requirements.
But wait, let's look at Bruce's entire strategy here, because based on our earlier discussion about the twin pillars, I'm spotting a massive, glaring omission.
Ooh, what's missing?
Well, he's sending a fragile item. He asks for bubble wrap and he asks for tracking. But where is the insurance? Why isn't he utilizing the financial safety net?
This is the critical debate.
Right.
Why would a rational actor practicing postal precision actively decline insurance on a fragile item?
Because tracking only tells him exactly where the item was when the forklift ran over it, right?
Right.
Bubble wrap is his only physical defense, but if the bubble wrap fails, like if the box is dropped from 20 feet instead of 2 feet, the item breaks.
It certainly does.
And without insurance, he just gets to watch a digital progress bar update to delivered, only for his family to open a box of shattered porcelain. Why take that risk?
Well, to understand Bruce's strategy, you have to really understand the friction of the claims process and the fundamental difference between intrinsic and extrinsic value.
Okay, explain that.
You could argue that he should buy insurance just to be safe. But let's look at the actual reality of filing a claim. It is an administrative nightmare.
Yeah, I've heard it's awful. You have to provide proof of value, original receipts, photos of the damage, photos of the packaging.
Exactly. The system is designed with a very high degree of friction, primarily to prevent fraudulent claims.
Right, they don't want to just hand out checks.
Exactly. Now, apply that friction to the concept of gifts sent home. What kind of gifts do people usually send home?
Well, often they're highly personal things. A hand-knitted sweater, a framed family photograph, or like a souvenir mug from a trip.
Right. Items that might have immense emotional value to the sender and recipient, but very, very low financial replacement value.
Yeah. Oh, I see where you're going.
Let's say Bruce is sending a mug he bought at a local craft fair for $15. It's fragile, so he absolutely needs the bubble wrap. It's a gift, so he wants the emotional comfort of tracking it all the way to his mother's doorstep.
But the insurance...
If the automated system breaks that $15 mug, the Postal Service cannot magically unbreak it. They cannot replace this specific sentimental gesture. All they can do is eventually hand Bruce a check for $15.
And the cost of Bruce's time to navigate the bureaucratic friction of proving the mug's value, filling out the forms, and waiting weeks for a check. It's mathematically not worth the $15 payout.
Precisely. His personal cost of time far exceeds the potential financial recovery.
The monetary reimbursement wouldn't fix the heartbreak of the broken gift anyway, and it would just cost him hours of administrative headache.
Exactly. So we are witnessing a highly sophisticated risk assessment calculus happening in real time at the counter.
Wow, Bruce is a mastermind.
He really is. He assesses the physical risk. The item is delicate, so he deploys bubble wrap to manage the kinetic energy. He assesses the emotional risk. The item is a gift, so he deploys tracking to provide a digital chain of custody and psychological comfort.
And he assesses the financial risk. The replacement value is low, and the administrative friction is high, so he actively opts out of insurance.
He isn't making a mistake at all. He is performing ultimate postal precision. He is applying the exact right tools for his specific logistical and emotional requirements, and he's actively ignoring the tools that don't serve him.
That completely reframes the entire experience of walking into a post office. It stops being a passive, intimidating chore where you just agree to whatever the clerk suggests.
It becomes an exercise in strategic communication and active risk management. You are no longer just dropping a box into a void. You are commanding a highly complex, multi-layered system.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaways we've extracted from this exploration. To ship packages with true confidence, as the source text promises, you have to move past the superficial transaction.
You have to understand the physical and digital mechanisms you are triggering.
Right. First, you must master the calculus of shipping speeds. You have to understand that you're not just buying time, you are buying physical priority and reduced handling within an automated hub-and-spoke network.
And you have to consciously decide whether to engage with the modern expectation of hyperspeed or whether to intentionally step back.
Second, you have to utilize the twin pillars of tracking and insurance correctly. You must understand that tracking is a diagnostic tool that provides the illusion of control and psychological relief through data points.
While insurance is a pure financial risk transfer mechanism that requires navigating a lot of administrative friction.
And finally, you have to recognize the vital importance of vocabulary. The English terms speed, tracking, insurance, bubble wrap are not just administrative jargon.
They really aren't. They are the operational codes that force the physical and digital infrastructure to bend to your specific needs. exactly as we saw in Bruce's strategic deployment of physical protection over financial coverage.
I want to emphasize that for you listening right now. These seemingly mundane words are incredibly powerful tools. By understanding not just what they mean, but how they manipulate this system, you are completely empowered.
You can walk into any logistics hub anywhere in the world and command the exact service you need without a single shred of intimidation. You are the architect of that package's journey.
Knowledge of the system transforms underlying anxiety into actionable confidence.
Absolutely.
So I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over. The next time you walk up to that quiet counter, hand over a cardboard box, and successfully look the clerk in the eye and ask for tracking, think about the sheer scale of the invisible machinery you have just activated.
The magnitude of the automated response to that single word is just extraordinary.
With one specific vocabulary choice, you have forced a multi-billion-dollar global network of automated diverters, cargo planes, optical lasers, and database servers to focus on your single item. You've commanded that massive infrastructure to report back to you step by step, pinging a satellite to light up the phone in your pocket until your personal property safely reaches its destination.
It's an incredible amount of power in a single word.
You aren't just sending a package, you are pulling the levers of a global machine. Keep that in mind next time you're standing in line.